Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday morning to you. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. I do appreciate you joining me here on what I call my morning musings. Now, by the way, here it is Tuesday, and I'm going to be offering a really incredible. I haven't made up my mind exactly the final form of it, but it's going to be either 2 or 3 books since we've been discussing a good bit the resurrection concept of Matthew 25 and Revelation 20. I'm going to be offering either 2 or 3 books. One of them is going to be the death of Adam, the life of Christ. The second one, now these are the 2 that's confirmed that I'm going to offer. The other one is 70 weeks are determined for the resurrection. I'm thinking about including 70, a shadow of the real end, ? But 2 for sure, okay, 2 for sure. The death of Adam, the life of Christ. And number 2, 70 weeks are determined for the resurrection. Give me your feedback, by the way. And I understand, we're already into June, so I may extend the special offer into July. But I just wanted to make these books available because there's been an awful lot of discussion about the resurrection. Now, I told you yesterday that I wanted to address, I got to be careful here. My throat just feels super weak this morning. And by the way, as a result of this, I'm not going to be able to do a video for Thursday or Friday because they're too long. I cannot talk for 30 minutes or an hour. Just simply can't do it. These 12 to 15, 16-minute videos are all I can do within one day. I'm sorry for that. It's just simply the reality of where I'm at. Okay. So I have suggested to you, and yesterday I presented some things. Let me go back over it. To establish the truth that Matthew 25:31 and following and Revelation 20 through 22 are speaking of the same time and the same event. The coming of Christ at the end of the millennium. Now, I really believe this is critical because we're hearing from different individuals that are telling us Christ did not enter into his kingdom rule until AD 70. And that means the millennium did not begin until AD 70. I've been corresponding back and forth on YouTube with and Facebook as well with different individuals who are taking that position. Now, by the way, there's been some vacillation in the position of some of those folks, and they're very respectful people, by the way. Been having some good discussion, but the position has been taken. It's kind of a twofold position, depending on who's posting. Number one, the position has been offered, or the argument has been offered, that the Old Testament did not predict the millennium at all. At least 2 or 3 individuals said the Old Testament did not predict the millennium. It's a brand new prophecy. Well, I think that's fallacious. I'm not going to cover that today, but I'm pretty sure that issue is going to come up. In September, I will be having a formal internet debate with Anthony Aquino, who is a dispensationalist, and he rejects the idea that the millennium ended in the 1st century. He does not take the position that the millennium began in AD 70. At least that's, if he believes that, I haven't read that from him. So here's the point. If it's true, all right, and you've got to catch the power of this, those who are advocating the idea that Christ did not begin ruling until AD 70, and therefore the millennium did not begin until AD 70, are thereby absolutely logically forced to take the position that Revelation chapter 20, 10 and following through chapter 22 is talking about a different time and a different event. Well, why is that? Well, the argument once again is Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following is the beginning of the millennium. The coming of Christ in judgment, in the kingdom, to sit on the throne of his glory, to begin his rule and reign. But Revelation chapter 20, ladies and gentlemen, is the depiction of the judgment at the time of the resurrection and the judgment of all nations. Here's the kicker: at the end of the millennium. So if you're going to argue that Matthew chapter 25, 31 is when Christ would receive the kingdom and begin to rule and reign in the millennial reign, then you cannot say that Matthew 25, 31 and following is the same judgment of Revelation 20, because Revelation 20, that judgment takes place at the end of the millennium. So you have disposition demands, logically, the position that the millennium began in AD 70 logically demands Matthew 25, 31 following, the beginning of the millennium. Revelation chapter 20, 10 and following, end of the millennium. So that must mean that we have two comings of Christ, two comings of Christ for the judgment of the nations, for entrance into the kingdom. And by the way, the only way to discount this, well, there are a variety of ways that you cannot discount this. But you have to therefore say that entrance into the kingdom is totally different from entrance into the new creation. Where are you going to find that? How do you justify that? Is the new creation not the kingdom? Well, the kingdom cannot be shaken. That's the kingdom that they were already receiving, by the way, prior to AD 70 in Hebrews chapter 12, 25 to 28. So they were already receiving the kingdom, and Christ would sit on the throne of that kingdom when he came in judgment. So that kingdom would come at the shaking of, quote, heaven and earth. Well, in Revelation, the shaking of, quote, heaven and earth would take place in order to bring in the new heaven and the new earth. So once again, the question is legitimate and has to be posed. What's the difference? Where's the distinction? And by the way, let me make this observation. This has to be answered. In Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following, it is the time of the coming of the Son of Man for the vindication of his martyrs. Those who were imprisoned, but who are now told, enter thou into the joys of the kingdom, prepared for you from the foundations of the earth. This is Daniel chapter 7, that at the coming of the Son of Man, the little horn is destroyed, the little horn who is the persecutor. Well, that in turn is Revelation chapter 20, the destruction of Satan, Leviathan, the great persecutor, the great dragon persecutor of Revelation chapter 12. And when does that take place? At the end of the millennium. So my point is that Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following is the time of the vindication of the martyrs. Well, when did Jesus say that would take place? In his generation, in the judgment of Jerusalem. Matthew 23, 29 and following. upon you, Jerusalem, may come all of the blood, all of the righteous blood of all the righteous shed on the earth, from the blood of Abel unto Zacharias son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all of these things shall come upon this generation. That's his generation. It's not some future generation. In Revelation chapter 20, we have the martyrs receiving thrones so that they can rule and reign. Well, folks, the thrones are parallel to the white robes of Revelation chapter 6 given to the martyrs. You know, Revelation chapter 20, martyrs, thrones, waiting. Revelation 6, the martyrs under the altar, those who had been slain, are given robes. And they're told to rest for a little while until their fellow brethren who should be slain as they were should be fulfilled. What would happen at the end of that little while? Oh, you have the coming of the Son of Man in judgment and vindication of those martyrs. So in Revelation, you have the martyrs enthroned. You know, they've got white robes. And please don't tell me, well, white robes signify something different than thrones. No, they don't. No, they don't. Imagery is the same. Martyr vindication is the subject. So the martyrs in Revelation chapter 20 have to wait for something. What are they waiting for? Vindication at the end of the millennium. Matthew chapter 25, vindication of the martyrs at the coming of the Son of Man, entrance into the kingdom. Vindication, which is Daniel chapter 7. At the time of the destruction of the little horn, which is the destruction of the great persecutor. Revelation chapter 20, at the end of the millennium judgment, what happens? The great serpent, Leviathan, the great persecutor, is destroyed. When? At the end of the millennium, in vindication of the martyrs. So once again, folks, if you're going to delineate between Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following, and Revelation chapter 20, you got to prove the following. You got to prove that there are two totally distinct periods of time, separated by millennia, for the vindication of the martyrs and entrance into the kingdom. And you got to be able to prove that the kingdom is different from the new creation. Where do you get that from? What's the justification for it? And so I think you can see, I hope you can see, now if you differ, don't just say, Preston, you're wrong. Bring forth your strong reasons. Prove from context that these are different times, different events, separated by millennia. So far, 2,000 years, by the way. Prove that these are different martyrs. Prove that these are two different times of vindication of the martyrs. Prove that Matthew chapter 25, 31 is not the time of the destruction of the persecutor. But to do that, you got to divorce it from Daniel chapter 7. Oh, and by the way, you got to get it out of the days of Rome. Can't develop that now. You know what? I really apologize, but I'm not going to be able to film tomorrow after all. Best I can do, my voice after just 2 videos, my voice is wasted. So again, I apologize for that. So this will be all the videos for this week. Continue to keep me in your prayers. You can tell my voice is better. It's just not back. And I best not push it. That's what my doctor says. Just don't push it. Okay? Thanks for joining me. I'll see you as soon as I can. Thanks for joining me.